I think it's better coming from you as to what's the background story on you and how you got to this position today.
Okay. How long we got?
Welcome to episode 3 of Cash Me If You Can. We go back a few years now and known each other more as friends. So Thish, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming to our club.
Welcome to episode 3 of Cash Me If You Can. We've changed up our location slightly today. So you'll be joining us at the members club known as Curve. And I've got my good friend Thish de Zoysa with me, who'll be joining us in this podcast today. We go back a few years now and known each other more as friends and kind of stepping into a little bit of business together, but we'll get into the crux of that shortly. So really looking forward to this episode and I hope you enjoy it too. Okay, so Thish, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much, Nirav. Thank you for coming to our club.
Pleasure to be here, and it's a fantastic venue, I must say. Right, let's jump straight in. So, Thish, the serial entrepreneur, kind of maybe started way beyond gift cards, but I think that's where our paths effectively cross. Mm-hmm. And you're dipping your toe into various other industries. So I think without me kind of trying to explain this, I think it's better coming from you as to what's the background story on you and how you got to this position today.
Okay. How long we got?
You got 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. So look, I trained as a chartered accountant with a great firm called BDO. Most of my career has been in their insolvency and restructuring team in London. And Reading. And then in 2005, I noticed, we were actually handling the administration of all sports.
Yeah,
then.
I remember all sports.
200 retailers, retail sites. And then there was millions of pounds of gift vouchers, as it was back then. And all the holders were basically unsecured creditors, right? Because the company had gone bust. Yeah. And so my idea back in 2005 is, why doesn't someone create a gift voucher or card that protects the consumer against retailer insolvency? So just like with all good ideas, I did nothing about it. And then for about 10 years actually, and then I left BDO in 2010, joined a restructuring boutique called MCR. Yeah. As a director there, and I thought that was me fulfilling some entrepreneurial ambitions. It actually just fueled it a little bit more.
Sure.
I ended up looking at the gift card. There was just things that went on around personally, and a good friend of mine passed away, and it starts your mind thinking about, the what ifs. And then I started looking at the gift card market a lot closer. And then there was actually there's an association, and they published the numbers. Yeah. So in 2013, this association published that the UK alone gift card market was valued at £5 billion. And I thought, well, that's a lot. Let's start looking closer at it. And basically, it went from there. So we launched Their Perfect Gift. We soft launched it in 2014. I left the firm in 2015, and we hard launched in 2016. Yeah. And so now we've been going, nearly pushing 10 years from that hard launch. And I'm pleased to say that we've only ever raised £315,000 in investments. Yes. So
it's bootstrapped.
To a large degree, yeah. I mean, It's all just mates who threw some money in, largely just tell me to shut up going on about it. But, most companies fail within the first year. Yeah, absolutely. Only 90% even make it into the third year. So us pushing nearly 10, I'm really pleased given of what we've achieved. And every year, every couple of years, actually, there's another major event that we've got to get our heads around.
Absolutely. So if that was the foundation, and then as we talked about, or very briefly mentioned earlier, is you are a serial entrepreneur by nature. So obviously we've touched on Curve Club. There's Their Perfect Homes. Their Perfect Care, apologies. Their Perfect Care. Yeah. And we've also got Babel. So there's a few things going on just beyond gift cards, right?
Yeah. And look, Their Perfect Gift was always direction to be a social enterprise, right? Yeah. And, we've tried hard to position that, but with so little investment, it's very difficult to get there at the speed that I'd like to. Sure. Right. But statistically, it's just It's just challenging raising money.
Yeah.
So we've launched a number of products for that space, and we've actually won some major awards towards it. The care home came around because a good friend of mine, I was an advisor to his company. He's a care consulting business. Anyway, we got involved in turning around this care home. We saved all the jobs. We saved the homes for the residents, and in May 2024, we actually then bought the property.
Yeah.
But it was a 10-month negotiation, getting the deal structure right. Had to deal with the administrator, had to deal with the receiver. It was in that. And they're having a really good time. We had them de-risked within 12 months.
Yeah.
But it's growing and it's taking a life of its own, but it allows us to profile the other things that we're trying to do.
Okay, very good. So I guess the main question, kind of getting to the crux of why we're here today. So as a founder, as a business owner, you've already mentioned a lot on your plate. Where does payments come into it? What do you do? I mean, ideally you have a partner that you work with that can kind of take that pain away effectively. Kind of based on some of the brief conversations that we've had, there is a theme that kind of payment sometimes can be a pain in the backside, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Well, so we're talking about payments as our core subject here, but none of our venues take cash.
Right.
No cash.
Yeah.
We are all in the digital payments.
Yeah. So
whether it be the hospitality space, the care home, TPG, everything is digital payments.
Yeah.
And as a result, even for example, when we set up our venues, the partner we have on the till systems and the back end the payments, that is uniform across all of our venues and everyone that we bring on. So our investors who came with us with that, all of their investor cards, again, when they load up their investor cards, it's prepaid.
Yeah.
And they get an uplift, but their cards and their technology works across all the venues. Yeah. And we can then see the performance of all the venues. I can see it through apps. So it's really important that I have a visibility across everything, and we can't really do that with cash.
Yeah, correct. I'd completely agree. So sometimes when people think of digital payments, they're kind of looking at it kind of through a one-track focus, kind of tap your card on a machine. But there are more nuanced payment methods that, for example, you utilize within your businesses. For example, open banking is one. So what are the takeaways in your experiences in that industry? Kind of not pros and cons, but it is very different to kind of that understanding that maybe the mass market has on this is how payments work. I kind of tap my card, something magical happens in the background, and the money kind of ends up where it needs to end up.
Yeah, and it's good that you touch on open banking, because I mean we've won a number of major awards in our use of open banking, especially with our ease product, which is earn as you spend, and that was that first foray into trying to create a social enterprise product. And the thing about open banking is the cost, right? It is significantly cheaper than card.
Yeah.
It is instant.
Yeah.
And it removes, for me, the risk of chargeback risk.
Absolutely.
Right. And that is hugely, hugely important, because fraudsters are really smart, right? Like really, really smart. And they're operating off a laptop in their underpants in somewhere, yeah. And you'll never get to them.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have a multiple layer of ways to be able to take payments. So, for example, on our digital MasterCards, we won't accept any card payment to buy them. It's only open banking.
Yeah.
Right? Because when we did allow it, the potential fraud levels were just
skyrocket, right?
So I'd much rather sell less and have no fraud, and sell loads more and have to have chargebacks and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Right. So moving on to a slightly deeper dive, and again, we touched on their perfect gift. So if you could snapshot the problem that their perfect gift solves today, and again, it's something maybe you touched on a little bit earlier, but maybe worth just on the back of the deeper dive, kind of focusing in.
So essentially, when you look at the gift card market, right? People no one cares. Unless you're really in the industry, it's really unsexy. It's not banking. But fundamentally, it's branded currency.
Yeah.
Right. And in lots of ways, in fact, legally, it's actually, when you're talking about a retailer specific gift card, they are unregulated.
Yeah.
Okay. And 2019, the figure was announced as 7 billion just in the UK. Okay.
It's huge.
It's massive, right? At any one time, Starbucks, and this is the current report, holds around $2 billion on their gift cards at any one time globally.
Wow.
Which is used as working capital, right?
Yeah.
Which is more money than most banks in the US hold in reserve.
Yeah.
Is it a coffee shop? Is it a bank? I mean, what is it?
Right? It takes you back to that Starbucks analogy that's gone around the houses, right?
Yeah, absolutely, right. So you're looking at this space, and remember, they're all prepaid cards.
Yeah.
Right. They just restrict your payment. So, you'll go into a retail store, you'll hand over money, whether it's physical or digital, that you could spend anywhere, to now money locked into one retailer.
Right.
Because you want to personalize something. And most people assume it's only consumer, but it isn't. Huge proportion, about 50% of the market is corporate.
Right.
Right. I mean, 80% of our business is corporate.
So is that kind of incentives, rewards internally within corporates, for example?
For staff, customers, reward, recognition, loyalty, service recovery.
Yeah.
I have a whole different name for that. But, multiple levels. I mean, our cards have been used for refugee payouts, for example, one-off payments to people that just don't have a bank account.
Yeah.
They've arrived in the country, and, we've had the Ukraine war, and a number of councils are working with us, giving cash to those kind of refugees. Then you have people like big universities that use us as a luncheon voucher for their executive programs, and they load up and the holder can go with every restaurant that they want to. Right?
So I actually do remember I'd taken an advanced course at the LSE, and this is when we were talking, and kind of I knew about, obviously, their perfect gift, and hey presto, kind of open up that box and there's a voucher for lunch, and it's a their perfect gift card. So it's a great link into that university space. We should definitely have a separate conversation on this with what we're doing in that space.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, we don't actually have an outbound sales team.
Right.
We never done it. I lie. I tried it. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So stop doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And we're very active on especially things like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because we want people to see what the opportunities are. Then it's their idea.
Right.
Right. And they come to us and we'll deal with it. And, it's not without its challenges, because we have a very complex technology and payment supply chain.
Yeah.
And any wobbles in that supply chain affect us, because we are the consumer facing side.
Because you're the front end. So therefore, if there's an issue or a complaint, effectively it's coming to your front door.
Correct. And people obviously blame us.
Sure.
But, in 10 years, we've survived the collapse of 4 issuers.
Right.
And these are guys that raised hundreds of millions of pounds across the board, and 300 grand still here. Right.
Yeah.
But it's and I keep saying this to founders that I do mentor, you've got to love the journey.
You have to, right? And that's something that actually came up in discussion in some previous episodes. It's the end result is great, and obviously there's a target that you're aiming for. But if you can't be present and enjoy the journey, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah, and don't get me started on the politics of it, because every financial reward is being removed.
Yeah, correct.
So the only thing you've got left is the journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and it is a challenging space, payments. It is not for the faint-hearted.
So you've touched on a number of challenges. What would you say kind of sits? It may not be one line item, if you like, but what's one of the most challenging areas with this model? Is it fraud? Is it payments? Is it something else?
It is the pricing, right? In the we fundamentally are running a regulated financial product.
Yeah.
We are the retail end of it. So our supply chain partners are all regulated, and we are the retail side. Which basically means that our cards have to be sold at face value.
Right.
Right. We cannot sell it below face value, because if we did, we probably wouldn't have any stock left.
Yeah.
And we go bust before the afternoon is out.
Right.
Yeah. And that would be great, because we could then talk about how many users we've got, right? But we'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything has to be sold at a premium. We are a premium product. We are not in that mass market bit.
Does that kind of exclude some of the market sometimes? And I say that not from a marketing standpoint, but with other providers who do offer this freemium solution sometimes, or has been the case historically. So how do you overcome that challenge?
Okay, so it depends on what their direction of travel is.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're looking at specifically the gift card market, and our competitors are retailer gift cards, and we have a great relationship with them all because we try and partner rather than compete with just a different offering.
Yeah.
When they sell into the corporate channels, they'll be selling it below face value, right? Because they'll be getting it is a driver of income into their core retail business.
Yeah.
But we are not tied to any retailer. So we don't make any money from retailers. It actually costs us to provide the products.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, how much a first class stamp, right? You got the plastic and the technology. You've got 4 or 5 different financial services businesses that stand behind us that all need paying.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing that I guess most retailers, corporates, consumers don't see, right? They kind of look at this as a shop. I'm kind of going and buying, and that's it.
They don't see, frankly, they don't care. And you go, well, they don't have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So when you look at the market, the average gift card amount is around £25. Ours is more like 100.
Right.
So we already at a premium end, and I don't mind that. Right. We dipped our toe trying to play in that map, but it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
It's the quickest way to go bust.
I was going to say, just pure marketing dollars alone would
Yeah.
probably just sink the ship to a degree.
Correct. And this is why our focus has been on corporate.
Yeah.
And whilst we sell to both consumer and corporate, like I said, 80% of our revenues are corporate led because they're after the flexibility and they want service and they want a process. The consumer, and this is interesting about the consumer that comes to us and says, oh, actually, well, I could buy a £50 such and such card for £50.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you should go do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? Why do I need to pay for it? Well, we're giving you a greeting card.
Yeah.
We're posting it for you. We're allowing you to personalize it, and you do it straight off your phone or tablet or laptop. The person who has a challenge with that, they are traveling to a store, they are queuing up, they are buying a greeting card, they're probably buying a stamp, and if they post it and they lose it in the post,
that's it.
They've gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's not our customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the other thing, just to mention, because I know the business, is the spend anywhere piece, right? The other risk you've got is a retailer goes bust. And we've seen that a lot over the last few years. And this also negates that risk, essentially.
Yeah, it does. Because, I mean, look, the balances of our cards have to be held in a ring-fenced account, right, with a regulated issuer. And the idea always stems from the insolvency of that first retailer I spoke about. And then since then, if you think about the retailers have gone bust and the gift card holders, of those retailers, Comet, Jessop's, Blockbuster, H&V, Bordersburgs, Austin Reed, BHS, House of Fraser, Thomas Cook, Toys R Us, Matt Plin, Ted Baker. I mean, it keeps going, right?
Yeah. And it's growing, unfortunately.
It is. Bricks and mortar is hard graft.
Yeah.
But every retailer should have their gift card offering.
Yeah.
It will drive statistically 40% more spend in their stores.
Interesting.
Right. You end up spending 40% more above the value.
Right.
And then they are using it as working capital in their business. Right? They obviously holding it as a liability in the balance sheet for redemption, but nonetheless it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. So that's interesting to kind of understand that scope of it. So now you've got the here and now. What does the next few years look like in this industry, in your view? Where does the market go? Growing, kind of stagnating? We're obviously on the back of last year's budget. What does that look like now?
I think the gift card market will continue to grow.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the trend since 2013, when we started looking at it, to now, it is only on an upward trajectory.
Yeah.
Plus, different locations and jurisdictions have a better use case for gift cards. So, for example, Ireland, when they had their financial difficulties, the Irish government brought in their trivial benefits of €250 to be handed out to employees as long as it was non-cash, and gift cards qualified.
Yeah,
to stimulate their retail economy.
Right.
And this was nearly 10 years ago. Today, that 250 is now 1,500 because it's worked so well.
Okay.
Right.
Where does that compare? So you mentioned Ireland. Where does that compare to the UK?
The UK is so generous, £50.
Okay.
Right. So it's a question of, how many times you can use it.
Sure.
So and so.
Is there an element of missing the trick there without turning this into a political conversation?
I'll be honest, they're missing a trick all over the board. Right. So even if you look at, a lot of, dare I go down that rabbit hole, but benefits payments and things.
Sure.
Those can be restricted payments. You can utilize gift card technology and work with retailers so it's only buying food, it's only buying clothing, and only buying childcare, etc., right? And I don't know why they don't do it, right? Yeah. Technology exists.
Is that lack of knowledge, lack of understanding in the space?
Probably. But there's always that phrase, isn't it, where if you always think as you always thought, you'll always do as you've always done, you'll always get as you've always got. Yeah,
that's it. Right, thank you for that. So moving on to business 2, if you like. So it's care homes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what was that journey? Why did you decide to kind of take that jump, that journey, or that next step into their perfect care?
Okay. Well, the universe does some crazy stuff, right? So, this was an opportunity to be involved in another area, it was a challenge. It was a challenged business. Really liked it, liked the culture that it could be.
Yeah.
It was a difficult project. It had never been done before. Like I said, it was 10 months of structuring how the deal dynamics work, and then working with the existing team. There's been wholesale changes, shall we say, within the culture. It's really improved, and this one's actually been a real labor of love.
Okay,
right? And I was going there maybe 4 times a week for the first 4 months. Now I think it runs so well, and we've got to manage the cash still, but now it's like once a week.
Okay.
Most things are managed through apps, and technology. So we digitize all the care plans, all the payment systems, the rotas, everything has been digitized as much as possible.
Okay. So honing in on that payments piece and kind of looking at maybe the pros and the cons, if you like. So what does that typically look like within that space? Is there issues with late payments? Is there issues coming from, I don't know, councils, for example, in terms of late payments where there is kind of some involvement from local government? I mean, I guess you'd know this way better than I will.
Yeah. So we've only got a little home, which is only a 26-bedder.
Right.
And the majority of our residents are local authority funded.
Okay.
So we are reliant on local councils paying their invoices. And I think as a nation, we need to have a balance as to how much is private and how much is local authority funded, right? So we won't ever go more than around 10 private.
Okay.
Because I think that still keeps a really good balance to the social requirements, yeah? But some councils pay quicker than others.
Right.
And you can't force them.
Yeah, right.
Right. But, if they don't pay, well, paying PAYE and there's a challenge.
Yeah, right. Because that's coming out of your own pocket.
Because it's tens of thousands, right?
Yeah.
Council withholds it for 2 months.
Yeah.
It's tens of thousands.
Right. Do you feel like there are solutions out there that can help improve that, or is that just pure bureaucracy at government level or at local council level, I should say?
Well, look, they've got to send the money.
Yeah.
And local authorities need to digitize as much as everyone else as private enterprise.
Right.
And that would always help the working cap of the flow. But if you look at the nation in its entirety, nearly all social care is provided on a private basis.
Yeah.
Right. So it needs the working capital. And despite what people may think, the margins are tight.
Right.
Right. Because, even in ours, we've got nursing care 24/7 and they're relatively well paid. So try and keep all the staff motivated and happy and paid well for what they're trying to do. And I'm not really taking anything out.
Sure.
So it's tight.
Okay.
It's really tight.
So are margins key then in that kind of industry?
Right. Hugely key. So with the care home, it was actually the very first that we could actually launch our ease product into.
Right.
So it was a good way to work with the supermarkets to get the money flow coming in. It helps the budget, the payouts, the weekly food bills with the home and the manager. So it's worked to help test other solutions.
Sure.
But we can't force the councils to pay us.
Yeah, correct.
We need them to.
Is there sometime, or is there anything that can be improved on the business's side? I don't know, for example, for transparent invoicing. I don't know whether that's a factor that potentially slows down LEAs because they don't understand what they're seeing, or they're trying to somehow tie it back or reconcile it internally.
I don't know. It's difficult because, I think we've been both sides are as transparent as they possibly could be.
Sure.
Yeah. Because it's done on a per resident basis.
Yeah.
So we know, who it is and what rate they're at.
Yeah.
They've been for the week, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The private payers are great.
Yeah.
Right. And we have a good relationship. We have a good relationship with them all. And
Sure.
we try to make sure that everything is done in a partnership model with everybody, because we all need care homes to exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? None of us are going to get younger.
Yeah.
Right? There's only one way we're going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we need an infrastructure that works.
Right. Do you feel like it's broken at the moment?
I don't know if it's broken per se. I think it's all about, can it be improved? Yeah. Everything is always about improvement, and there's always got to be a forward motion, right?
Yeah.
But, sometimes we're dealing with legacy institutions and legacy thought processes, and we need to be a bit more
forthright, a bit more service driven,
entrepreneurial about these things.
Yeah, fair enough.
But it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because the way that I might think is definitely different from lots of other people think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, I have this, there's always an observation of, it's like that bouncer thought process, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's my club, you're not coming in, kind of.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you could, I don't know, like for argument's sake, pick an ideal partner to support you on payments, what would be the kind of key things that you're looking for? And again, kind of bringing this back into payments and the movement of funds and ensuring that happens efficiently. What are the traits you're looking for?
Okay. So things go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Right, it's my experience. So partnerships has got to be about fixing problems really quickly.
Yeah.
Right. Being transparent about what's going on and how it gets fixed.
Right.
Because as long as there's a really good communication flow, any problem can be overcome.
Yeah.
Right, and quickly. And that's basically what we need. I think sometimes when things get just too big,
yeah,
you never get to speak to a human.
Sure. I was just going to say that. Is it key that there's a human on the other end of the phone, for example, when there is an issue of some sort, and the fact that, number one, you've got acknowledgement, and then at least there's an ability to then tie that back to resolution in some guys, whereas sometimes if you get thrown into the bottomless pit that is a ticketing system, for argument's sake, with a larger provider. So I guess the point I'm getting to, kind of touching it on service.
Yeah.
So obviously bigger institutions, what you have kind of from a pro perspective is better margins, arguably, but sometimes you lose that service element. And on the other side of the table is you may have slightly kind of wider margins, if you like, but then you've got that service element attached. So yeah, is there a happy medium somewhere in between?
Well, see, this is interesting because we have the same issue at TPG, right?
Yeah.
In that we're in the mass market.
Right.
Okay. So in order to try and keep things low in terms of output, and given the fact that when we first started, I've seen costs rise 200-300% in a lot of these input costs, and the market won't take anymore, and it's really challenging, right?
Yeah.
But am I going to have a call center? No, because
can't
field it.
Yeah.
Right? It just, most things can be answered through just through going through the FAQs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's only when you come down to really challenging things like the issuer goes bust.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Or fraud occurs, and those kind of, if it's mass attempts of fraud, those kind of things, you need to speak to someone.
Yeah.
Bots ain't going to do it for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually looking at it slightly nuanced more on the kind of back end from your perspective is, you talking with your payment partners to solve resolutions or issues that are coming up at the front end. So it's more, what are you looking at in a payments partner? Is it service? It's probably all of the above. Service, is it margin? Is it...
Okay, so the ability to adapt is key.
Right.
Right, because payments evolves.
Yeah.
Right. If we look at payments over the years, it's all about user experience.
Yes.
Okay. It's user experience. It's managing risk.
Yeah.
It's managing fraud. Right, and keeping on top of the regulatory environment. Those will be the areas.
Yeah.
But lots of opportunities always pop up because of change of legislation.
Sure.
And payment partners that will help us navigate that and go, we're here already.
Right.
Give me X, Y, Z, and we can spread it out.
Absolutely.
Right. Whereas the larger, often private equity backed or big corporate, can't move. Computer says no.
Yeah.
It's too rigid. We'll never get it through our dev development.
It's got to go through 10 committees to even get to a resolution.
Yeah, and you're like, give me an entrepreneurial outfit, right?
Yeah, right.
Because let's face it, this is about movement of money from A to B for a fee.
Yeah.
Give me the user experience, give me the speed, give me the flexibility.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right? Great. But it's a volume play.
Yeah.
Right. And pretty much everything in financial services can be replicated.
Yes.
Right. Can be replicated, just depending on how much money and marketing you want to throw at it.
Yeah.
Right? And go back to something you said earlier about people and their growth story. All I've ever seen over this last 10 years since I've been in this sector is people giving away investor money with this hand.
Yeah.
Right. Just paying people to use a product, drawing them into an ecosystem in the hope of trying to sell them something with this other hand, and bleating on about how popular they are so they can raise more money.
Right.
But they're making their money out of non-core products.
Yep.
Right. And then it's just financial engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've been very consistent about this for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that for sure. Right. So moving on to hospitality, there is Babel under the umbrella of Perfect Hive. There's obviously Curve Club. So again, a difficult industry today, has been probably for the last few years. Again, something that I mentioned is that you're doing that with a smile on your face today, which is great. Tell me about it. Pain points. What's difficult? What's good? Where is it?
Okay. So to be clear, Perfect Hive as an offering is a, for want of a better phrase, an accelerator.
Right.
Okay. So all the people that I've got with it, we're all passionate about entrepreneurship. So Perfect Hive is a business there to promote, to develop, to advance startup and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Okay. And as a result, it needs to operate from venues.
Sure.
So that's basically how that all comes around.
Okay. Got it.
The fact that we have operating licenses for these venues and the structure is different, but each venue that we are operating from has its own culture.
Okay.
And it has its own unique offering.
Okay.
But it gives us an environment to be able to run workshops, presentations, launch parties, launch events, promotional and advisory capacity for entrepreneurs and startups.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And when we acquired Curve, for example, that's a private members club that's been operating for 3 years.
Yeah.
And we met the founders, really like the founders. I like to think they're kind of like us. They had a sale in the process, which fell away. And we did this transaction in a week.
Right.
And one of the co-founders is still working with us.
Nice.
And all we're trying to do is propel what they had already started.
So would you label that as more kind of community, kind of building that community?
Yeah, trying to.
Okay.
Because, they had a good period of months where they effectively emptied out their membership.
Right.
We're just trying to bring it back.
Okay.
We're trying to be a bit more focused around what we're trying to do. We don't need loads and loads of members, because we're focused on a different trajectory. We want trying to build a movement, a community of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So alongside all of that, there's House of Bow, which again, there's another kind of prong, if you like, that's kind of doing its own thing. So these are, again, some of these are businesses that naturally overlap. Others are completely out of the space. What are you seeing as the typical payment challenges versus kind of a wholesaler, if you like, on one side from a brand point of view? versus a bar, which is kind of people walking in and paying?
Okay, so what we don't have in our venues is cash, right?
Right.
Everything is digital payments.
Yep.
And so when we, and again, look at memberships, our cards, etc., the tech needs to work in all of our venues.
Right.
Right. So when you've got a membership card for Curve, yes, you remember, but you can redeem that with every venue that we I have a responsibility over.
Got it.
That's what we want to try and do.
Yeah.
House of Bow, bit of an outlier.
Yeah.
But it's a great brand. It's been around for 15 years.
Sure.
We picked it up and rescued it out of administration. But when we bring it in, it's a great way to be able to sponsor events that we host.
Yeah.
It pushes our own brand in. It's all intertwined.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you've got, obviously we've touched on Babel, we've touched on Curve Club. So there's themes around how some of these businesses were acquired. You saw an opportunity, and based on that kind of administration space, if you could say is there a general theme that you've seen on businesses that have struggled? Is it conducive to today's economic environment? Kind of, if you could pick out a couple of bits that you see in terms of general themes within those spaces, or is it that it's all very much nuanced on that business at that time in terms of very much what was happening in that space?
Yeah, I think different industries will have different challenges.
Yeah.
And in times of economic challenges, there will be consolidation. But we've just come out of, a period of where we had, 10, 15 years of 0%.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're at 4%.
Right.
And I still think that's rather reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the whole scheme of things, actually, in comparison, you're in a...
When I was a kid, we had 15%.
I remember that. Yeah.
But we've got a whole generation that don't know anything but zero.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a challenge. And a lot of businesses have grown and expanded based on the fact of debt being quite cheap. And if back then, if you were charging 5 or 6%, that was a usury level of debt.
Right.
But it's kind of reasonable now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and all we're trying to do is trying to find opportunities where, if you like, the heavy lifting's already been done.
Yeah.
Right. Because us as a collective, we're not looking to make our money in hospitality. Like I said, I just don't think it's really possible.
Sure.
I mean,
do you feel like it's a bit of a race to the bottom, or that the market's just not conducive to it today?
Rents are really high.
Yeah.
Taxes unbelievably high.
Yeah.
Repairs, renewals, things go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
The wages that you're paying, there's literally no profit.
Right.
I mean, there's no profit.
Race to the bottom.
So the venues have got to operate for other things.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is repurpose hospitality venues, because most things are quiet during the day.
Right.
These are great spots for people to come together, to work, to bounce ideas. And some of the conversation we have at Curve is brilliant, right? When people get together, when leaders get together, I mean, things just happen.
It's a melting pot, right? You've got ideas in the room, you've got a bit of discussions that can work really well.
We cannot rely on government to fix things, because they won't.
Yeah.
It's just not in their...
I was going to say, it's not in the nature of governments to do that. But...
You've got to rely on entrepreneurial people to get it done.
Right.
But again, I also don't believe in mass accumulation of wealth, right? Because you cannot take it with you into the next life.
Exactly.
You're leaving it here. You're leaving it there. It's gone.
Yeah.
So you have to utilize it whilst you're compos mentis. And I think the most inspiring people I've ever come across are those who are social entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because how do you reposition that, right? And this is not, there was, again, come back to the period that we've had. Everything's been about scale, exit, scale,
right.
exit. Like, why?
Yeah.
Chill, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be here for a while.
Just kind of wide, yeah.
Build slowly, get it right. And sometimes things will go awry, but over a period, I'm going to be here for a while.
Yeah.
I've got time. So let's build with sustainability, financial sustainability in mind.
So it reminds me of a little quote from Ricky Gervais, of all people. So I'm nicking that one. But plant trees that you'll never sit under the shade of. I thought that as a little snapshot of kind of with that social intent in mind. I think you can really do some good. Again, it's got to make sense economically as a business, all of that.
Yeah.
But I think if that end goal is there and the vision is there, I think it's something that can definitely be achieved.
Look, I agree. And you're better off to give it a go.
Yeah.
win, lose or draw, you gave it a go.
Right. No one achieved anything from waiting, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You miss 100% of the shots
You don't take. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I'd like to think that the people that are on the journey with us are of that mindset too.
Yeah.
And there's no point waiting how much all this institutional money to raise, because statistically I'm never going to raise it.
Yeah, right.
So there's just no point.
Yeah.
So we got to be smarter, and I think because we haven't raised so much, we've had to be more streamlined.
Sure.
We've had to hustle harder. We've had to be more creative.
Yeah.
In everything we've done. And again, if you give startup founders loads of money, they'll mess it up.
Yeah, they'll find a million ways. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you give someone a £2.5 trillion pound keys that have never known anything. Guess what happens, right? So,
all right.
Oh well. See, what's interesting though is TWPayz.
Yes.
I mean, it's the brand to me.
Yeah.
How would you describe?
So I think that's interesting. I mean, thank you for asking that question first off. So
it's all right, because I've done a lot of talking.
It's all right. Just setting me up for this bit. So we've been around for 19 years as an organization. So very much focused in the acquiring space. And really the launch of TWPayz in the UK is effectively a startup, but it's built on the foundation of a business that's been operating for almost 2 decades.
So where is it coming from?
So Transact World is operating out of Europe, ultimately it's the rest of the world brand. So we've got, as a group, 6 licenses from India, Mauritius, Nigeria, the UK, Europe. So again, we've been in this space for a long, long time. Why TWPayz launch, and probably one of the reasons that I came into the business, is we're looking to maybe upset the apple cart isn't the right word, but when you look at it from the outside in, you can see the industry is inefficient. I mean, I'd arguably say broken in some regards. So it's coming in there with a fresh mindset, but again, very clearly understanding that financial services can be emulated or copied by arguably everyone. So what are our real differentials? So number one, I'm a firm believer in that service piece. So look, larger organizations are fantastic. Arguably the product is tete-a-tete, the same thing. So how do we distinguish ourselves? Number one, it's having conversations like this, understanding where there are pain points for founders, business owners, and coming in, and I still won't call it a bespoke solution, because I think the minute we become bespoke, that's arguably not reusable elsewhere, but utilize the foundation of the product we've got to either improve something in your business. Typically in the acquiring space, that starts with margin. And I'll be very real, in this space, it is very much a race to the bottom when we're talking about POS terminals. But if you couple that with service and you couple that with volume, you've got a business that operates. Now, the second rung of that ladder, if you like, is then focusing in on specific industries. So one of the industries that we are really focused on is students or university payments. So in our previous podcast with Graham, we went into a kind of deeper dive in that space. Now, what we're aiming to do there is really, I guess, square off that circle. So today there's a couple of providers, and I won't mention their names, but ultimately they do a great job at what they're doing. We're partnering with STA to really round off that solution. Pain points for universities today, manual payments, lack of transparency, kind of payments getting lost effectively, if you like. I think exorbitant charges, arguably companies making up money off universities when they're really struggling. So they've got resource hit, they've got issues kind of across the entire organization, if you like.
But presumably also, because, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the UK university environment relies heavily now on the foreign student.
Honestly, if you look at the percentages, I mean, domestic students arguably cover around, I'd say 55 to 60%. And then if the remaining is 40% international, and then you look at the fee differentials, the reliance is well and truly in that international student space. Today, there are providers out there that kind of push students to a certain journey, and a lot of those students don't like that journey for various reasons. So the beauty that we've got is because we've got an international business, we understand the nuances in a culture like India, for example, where arguably as a family, your bank manager on a first name basis, and you've got much more comfort making your payment through a bank onshore in India than you would via a third party terminal that you know nothing about. So we're kind of creating that middle ground. So we've got those relationships onshore in India with the banks and the bank managers, and therefore allowing students to use their kind of payment of choice. But the other side of that is from a technology perspective, there are growing ways to pay, right? So you've got bank transfer, card acquiring, alternative payment methods like your WeChat Pays, your Alipay's. And if you look at that culturally, there are certain cultures that like to pay in a specific way. Chinese students, for example, would much prefer to pay by WeChat Pay rather than bank transfer or card. So it's giving the student the options, but then also showing them the cost behind each. So it's being transparent. And look, if we get that bit right, and not if, it's when we get it right, I think this will make a huge difference in that space.
Well, it's interesting because KYC and KYB are huge issues when we're talking international payments, right?
Absolutely.
I suppose and I'm thinking out loud now, but if you're coming from outside of the UK and you're big in those territories, that your hope is where the USB starts kicking in.
Yeah. So look, effectively the way it will work is it's always the university that pushes the invoice out to the student. We'll be utilizing an automated reminder system within our ecosystem to then push that notification to the student portal. So the student logs into their portal. I've got a payment due. You click that link, that drives you into the TWPayz ecosystem. And then you've got your option of, I am from here. So I'm from the United States. Here are my different ways to pay. I pay, you've got a transparent FX rate. You've got your cost versus each different payment method. And that just all flows through. The beauty of that is once that payment is made, that reconciles back into the automated reminder system, into the ERP of the university, which today is being done manually, right?
Oh, right, okay.
And then there's the whole thing of refunds. I mean, honestly, this is a deep dive subject into itself. And the fact that we've got a partner on the ground that's been in the space for 25 years is massive for us. I think if we tried to do this by ourselves, I think number one, we'd probably get laughed out of the door. Yeah. And I don't mean in the sense that we don't know what we're doing, but if you're not already in the HE space, very difficult market to get into. They generally will kind of look at you in the sense that you don't have that experience of why you're here. Yeah. So the fact we're doing it this way, and we're very transparent about the fact we haven't been in HE to date, but by attending some of the forums that we spoke about in the last episode, just the learning curve is huge. There are consistent themes up and down the country from all of the top universities that sing to the same tune of, this is broken, it's too manual, I don't have the resource. And I think we've got basically the solution to fix it.
Okay, well, it's bold words.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, and we'll talk more about it because I think there's some interesting things that we can discuss going into the future.
Well, I agree. Look, there's I think in the next definitely 18 months, we're going to see a lot more consolidation across the UK economy in various sectors. And I think if people are ready to take those opportunities through a restructure, I think they will exist. Payments will be a big area of it. And one thing I noticed is when companies look at restructuring, even internally, they don't look at their payments.
Yeah, right. Which seems crazy to me.
Well, what you've got is you got a CFO who doesn't really necessarily look at the payments. CTO.
Right.
CTO's not worried about the commercials.
Yeah, right. It would actually be with the CFO, right?
Right. They're looking at the user experience and that side of it. And actually, when you add up that number,
it's significant. It's significant. And if you can plug that gap and be smart about it, it's a way to do it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. But it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
It's been emotional.
Yeah, it has been emotional. And look, I'm looking forward to speaking again very, very soon. Thank you for your time. And look forward to the next one.
A pleasure. Thanks for asking.